Hi, this is Dr. Tom Rogers coming to you with a weekly podcast of what I call the Common Sense MD. Today I have a special guest named Kevin King, and we've been friends for a long time. He's done a lot of things in the medical field, and he'll explain it to you. But I guess I first got to know you through Physicians Plasma Alliance, where we send patients that need to donate blood or want to donate blood for various reasons. My son Andy actually worked for you for a while and doing some of the research things and some of the studies you do. You know, a lot of medicine behind the scenes are guys like this who do medical research for all the new things that we're able to do in medicine, and it's unbelievable what the process is, how onerous, how expensive, but how great it is. He does a lot of work with stem cells. He travels all over the world doing this kind of stuff. And your new company is called Biological Specialties. Is that right?
Yeah, Biological Specialty Company. So we were actually fortunate enough to be bought out by a large company called BioIVT. And they changed our name, of course. We have now, we went from we have one center in Gray, which you send a lot of your patients to, and we're so appreciative of that. We actually had another center in Berkeley, California. So kind of opposite ends of the world there a little bit for us. But they basically did the same things. And then when we were purchased, now we have 11 centers globally. So we have a couple in the UK. And then 9 in the U.S. So we've really grown tremendously over the past few years, and it's been a great journey.
So it's given you the ability to expand what you do, so you get a lot more specimens and a lot more brainiacs like you that are doing all this research. So tell me about, so you're always needing people for studies, of course. We've talked about like a new diabetic in that honeymoon phase, which I've seen with my own children. So we're on the lookout for that. What other things does your company like to do? I've been to your place several times, and the facilities where you freeze all the specimens, I mean, those are some pretty impressive looking machines and freezers.
Sure.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So we, of course, we take a lot of blood from just normal healthy patients or donors. That's kind of the base. So we take that all the time. We're always looking for blood donors, and some of our centers are more specialized for that. So we have one in Memphis that's a large donor center that just takes, maybe 100 or so a day. It's big. Where our center in Gray is more specialized, we do blood, but really we focus mostly on what's called leukapheresis, and those we look for healthy patients for the most part. But we also have disease patients that we look for, of course, for blood and leuko, and we also have a program called plasma donation, plasmapheresis, and we can also use those disease patients for that. So we're always looking for rheumatoid arthritis patients, lupus patients, SLE, lupus. Those are some of the hottest, or hardest donors to recruit, because we look for certain levels, and those change all the time.
Like newly diagnosed or somebody that's been on a drug for it for a while. What do you prefer?
Well, it really, I've seen it both ways. So sometimes for the plasma programs, we look for patients that are more newly diagnosed, or the treatments that they're on are not necessarily working the best. So they may have a high titer, which is their antibodies that are attacking their joints or attacking their organs, are at a very high level, and that's used in diagnostics. So we collect the plasma from those donors, and then that gets manufactured into certain diagnostics. It helps with testing, it helps with new diagnosis. It's really important to get that type of material for medicine. And then we also do leukapheresis, where we're looking a little less at the titer or the antibody levels. We're looking for patients that just have the disease and is well documented. So it could be early, it could be late, it could be on medicine, but we're looking for those patients, and we're collecting cells or white cells from those patients, and that is more along into the research side, where the pharmaceutical companies are using that material to study cells that are from patients that have the disease and to treat the disease better. And so all of that's really important to make sure we're getting those types of donors in our pool.
There's a lot of great things that can come out of white blood cell research, isn't there?
Yeah.
I've read a lot about that, as opposed to just donating blood for a blood bank. This is a totally different thing. They're both used to help patients, but a blood bank will be more acutely. This studies more the white cells. And how about stem cells? You talk a lot about stem cells, which I think really is probably going to be the future of medicine. It's not there yet, but tell me about the stem cell stuff you're involved in.
Sure. So again, that falls a lot along in the leukapheresis side, where we're harvesting portion of the donor's white blood cells. Now that process, you're basically attached to you hooked up to a machine for a few hours. As the white cells are taken away from your body, and then we return all the rest of the cells and your plasma back to you. And it's just taking a portion of those cells, obviously. And those cells are used in stem cell research. So we have a really exciting program that's called what we call mobilizing donors, and we're looking for donors from normal, healthy, just 18 to let's say 50-year-old patients. So it's a pretty wide range, and those programs where we're actually stimulating the donor. So we're giving a drug that's approved by the FDA called Neupogen, and we give it
something they give cancer patients.
Absolutely,
right?
and it's also we do it with normal healthy patients. Obviously, it doesn't cause cancer or anything. It's used in cancer
Increase
treatment,
your white count,
right? Yeah. And they'll usually give it in the back of the arm, and it's a program for 5 days. And then when we in that program, we collect leukapheresis 2 days in a row. So we're collecting those leukopaks 2 days in a row. Those are really going into the type of stem cell research people tend to think of. Now, I see there's really two branches. There's the mesenchymal type stem cell, where that's going into joints and helping regenerative medicine. And then there's the type of stem cell research that we're more involved in, that's using those cells to either study the type of treatments that you hear of for cancer. So like the immunotherapies, where they take the cells from patients, they modify those cells, and then they reintroduce those cells into the patients for treatments of cancer and other diseases. It's expanding every day what they're doing.
Like, I think they treat autoimmune diseases that way. You're talking about the almost treatments where they're looking at your particular DNA and what they call targeted therapy for cancer and other things.
Yeah, they take they're basically taking the white cells just through that leukapheresis process. They're modifying those T cells. So they're modifying them. They're attaching a chimeric antigen receptor to those T cells. And what that basically does is it allows, because cancer cells they're good at hiding from your immune system. They don't like to be seen, so they go hiding, and that's why you can't treat them very well. They're hard, and a lot of times those treatments are kind of a shotgun approach.
Right.
And you have to kill a lot of healthy cells to get to this cancer cells.
Normal chemo you're talking
about. Yeah. Right. So these targeted therapies, they modify those cells, and they actually are kind of on a search and destroy mission. They specifically look for an antigen on the cancer cell, and it allows it to attack it, your immune system to recognize it and attack it in a way where it can wipe it out. And sometimes it's a one-time therapy, and you never have to have treatment again. And there's some great success stories in those treatments. So I think we're just on the verge of this really becoming a mainstream treatment.
They've really made a lot of inroads into treating cancer, haven't they, with these new therapies?
Oh yeah. There's the CAR T, like I mentioned. They also another type of immune cells, natural killer cell. So
I thought about doing a podcast just on natural killer cells.
Sure.
It just sounds good. Sounds like a rock band.
Right.
But natural killer cells, we talk about ways you can kind of help your own immune system, and that would be great if you could stimulate your own natural killer cells that seek and destroy bad cells. Because really, don't we all kind of have these cancer cells or precancer cells floating around our bodies? Our immune system, just like the natural killer cells and the T cells, wipe them out on a continual daily basis. But for some reason, if it gets, you have a switch and they take over, they grow rapidly, and that's cancer.
Right. And the natural killer cells, the good thing, and I like that the research on all of it, but the natural killer cells, they don't require that antigen, chimeric antigen receptor. They can just kill. So they're trained to kill. They'll go after those cells, and they don't necessarily have to have a target to recognize them. So they're a little bit better in some ways to treat, and that's why that's a new therapy that's coming. There's radiotherapy, which is really fascinating too. We've got a friend that's actually has a location in Gray as well, which is amazing that we have all of these cutting edge medicine locations right here in the Tri-Cities that people have no idea about. And those are kind of tagging cells with radioactive material to allow it's allowing the medication in that circumstance to attack the targeted cell. It basically focuses, just to make it very basic, on glucose. So cancer cells love glucose, right?
Yep. That's why when you get a PET scan, you're basically injecting sugar water in your vein. It goes to the cancer.
Right.
That's why I tell all my cancer patients, go keto. You cannot eat carbs.
Right.
That's one of the first things I think I would do.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense.
So these natural killer cells, which fascinate me, I've read you can stimulate your own natural killer cells just by remaining healthy, taking vitamins, exercising, doing all those things. And you're talking about formulating things that can increase exogenous natural killer cells from other places besides your own body.
Right. Well, yeah. So the good thing about those therapies is it can be from a donor or it can be from your own. So the CAR T cells mainly are focused on your own. So you're taking cells from yourself, they're modifying them, reintroducing your own cells so your body can fight it. Yeah, safe. The NK cells actually can come from multiple, from yourself, donors. So that's really important in because it'll recognize and kill those cells, and sometimes your body just may not have enough of them. May not be able to target the way it needs to.
Really interesting. So there's a way to count your natural killer cells and see how much volume you have of your own.
Yep.
If you don't have enough, they can inject somebody else's into you.
Sure. Yeah. It's a modified natural killer cell therapy that they're doing, and there's several companies out there that are doing it, and it's fascinating work, and I'm sure we'll keep hearing more and more about it.
I need to do a podcast on natural killer cells. It's fascinating what they can do now, like with refractory cases of gut infections like Crohn's and all this stuff, and ulcerative colitis, where they do actual, or even an infection, they can do fecal transplants.
Yep.
And that can actually cure you. I've seen it work for people when nothing else worked.
Right.
So the world of immunotherapy, basically is just beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people are starting to hear about it more. It's been in the news a lot more, and there's and it really just is. A lot of people think stem cell treatment, they might first think of joints. That might be the first place they think, oh, that's where they're taking cells and putting them in to help my arthritis. And that's certainly a big part of stem cell treatment. It's just a different type, right? So when we talk immunotherapies, which is what we've been mainly talking about, that's really where they are teaching your immune system or a donor cells. They're teaching them to attack a certain, cell, a certain cancer cell, trying to get rid of it. And those treatments are coming fast and furious. It's hard as any treatment to get them through the process because we have a very stringent process.
Sure.
It has to be, of course, to treat people. And, these are going to change people's lives. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see some just revolutionary things with stem cell treatments. And, we're excited to be in kind of the starting piece of it. We started our company in 2009. I've been in the industry for 30 years, and yeah, we've been, excited to see it. We've seen so many things. We helped during all the pandemic era with the COVID material, trying to help companies understand how to, what it was. Even at the beginning, nobody really understood it. So we were an integral part of collecting that type of material. And, we always are looking for different disease patients, like you mentioned. Diabetes is one of our biggest programs. We need type 2s, we need type 1s, it's both people that have it in control, people that have it out of control, because we do different programs. We have some high A1C programs for patients that are struggling to control, and we'll collect blood from them, or we'll have like I said, the leukapheresis, which we're looking for that honeymoon period where they're still producing the type 1s, where they're still producing some of their own insulin, but they're kind of getting to that point where they're having to take insulin. And we need those patients as well, and that's more for a leukapheresis program. You mentioned Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. We need those patients as well all the time. We're looking for patients that are, what we look for is moderate to severe patients that have, fairly significant problems with it, but we're collecting it, and all that material is going to help research, is going to help other patients, and hopefully they'll see the benefit of it too. Like I said, this is moving. It's a fast-moving performance precision medicine that's coming quickly. So
I agree. So you're looking for patients with autoimmune diseases, diabetics, gut patients. We'll make a list of people at the end of this podcast. We're going to put your website and a list of things that you might want to get people in your clinic for, because number one, you pay them pretty well.
Sure.
And it's going to help everybody else out as well.
Yeah, and it's all done under ethical standards. We're paying people for their time, because it does take time. It's taking time out of their lives, and their time's worth something. So we pay people for their time, and it's all done under an investigational review board. And so there's consenting, there's all that goes along with it. We want to make sure that the patients are comfortable with what they're doing, and then also the people that in the future the research and the people that might receive any of treatments in the future can be assured that it came from an ethical source, which is really important. You can't overemphasize that.
I agree with that 100%. Plus, I've been to your place. You dot your I's, you cross your T's, you do everything. That place is as sterile as it gets, and the staff is really nice.
Sure. Thank you.
When somebody's sticking you to get your blood, you want somebody that's very good, and it's done it a million times. So
right.
But you're located in Gray, and we're going to put all your information up here. So, this is obviously a very smart, intelligent man, and you're doing the right thing. I love the fact that you're doing this type of research, and you've done it for 30 years. The just exponential growth of this kind of thing in medicine is really where it's at. That's where everything is at, and the kind of things you're doing right now. So thank you so much for all the stuff you're doing. We'll put his information down. If you know somebody that has these diseases or knows anybody that does, then look at this podcast and contact them. So Kevin King, thank you so much. I'm going to have you on here again. It's great to know you as a friend as well.
Yeah.
And I hope we can do this soon. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.